While Arcane has come and gone and the season has wrapped up, it seems like a lot of people seem to have confusion about what happened to Silco and Vander and what their falling out was even about. So let's run down through their timeline because I know season 2 kind of messed it up a little bit, and let's kind of fix it and see what we can understand from what we were given. From what we understand, Silco and Vander started out in the mines, and that is where they met Felicia, and they were all working in the mines because if you are not working in the mines in Zaun, you are doing crime, and that's kind of all the options you get. At some point, we know that Vander and possibly Silco have saved up money to buy the bar so they can get out of the mines.
What's the occasion?
Can't a lady just be in the mood for a familiar song?
Not this lady. And not this song.
While we don't know if Silco also co-ran this with Vander, it is very likely that he did so because his hair has grown out, which he probably didn't do because it would have been a hazard in the mines. But now that he was free of those, he could actually grow his hair out and be kind of more relaxed like we see him in that flashback. But as we found out in the flashback, this wasn't the end of making it in Zaun for at least Silco, while it might have been for Vander.
We made it. We're done.
Because he says the kind of half-hearted like, oh look, we've made it. Silco is like, no, actually.
Oh, you're sadly mistaken. I'm Bozo 1.
Which still could have been the still like, hey, we're not done yet, because he's currently like writing in his Nation of Zaun book and making those plans to try to continue making the Nation of Zaun and making it better for people in the Undercity.
The Nation of Zaun. Do you even remember? I trusted you.
So the boys do have their bar, and they have like a place of like to start this whole like Nation of Zaun thing. Especially because they're told by Felicia that they need to keep going because she's going to have Vi and later Jinx, where they need to make it a place that she could raise her children safely.
Because the second I told you, I put you on the hook. You two are gonna figure this Zaun thing out. I don't care if you have to carve it out of the bedrock covered in blisters.
We do know, not because we're told, but by context, that Silco and Vander had a falling out before Powder was born. Because he's not there in the memories that have Powder born and like alive and older. There was definitely a falling out before the water fight that we actually know is like a big part of like their development. The only thing is we don't know exactly what this falling out specifically was about. We know that Silco classifies it as a betrayal, but we don't know what that was. We do, however, know that they both agreed to go to the bridge and have that uprising against the enforcers because Vander even brought his gauntlets, so he was on board with it to a certain point, besides the fact that we do know that Silco threw the Molotov cocktail that led to the enforcers then killing Felicia, and that Silco was there when Felicia and her husband were dead, because they have that moment from Vander's point of view that Vander sees him, and then like they both have that like, oh no moment. But between that and when we see Vander in Arcane in the first season, he's beaten up on that enforcer, and he is like obviously still super angry. We can assume that the actual like water fight happened, and it has some kind of like blink and you miss it details that make me think this is what actually happened. Vander has shaved. We do know that people do like remove, like Jinx cut her hair, and then Vander has now shaved since he has gone to the bridge, which means they were probably burying Felicia. And a lot of the notes we have with how Zaunites deal with their dead loved ones is that they do bury them at sea. Victor dumping Sky's ashes in the water, and we see that with Jinx burying Silco at sea as well. So it is probably likely that their fight in the water ended up because they had just buried their friend, and that kind of led to the falling out because Vander blamed Silco, even though that was not entirely true. But we do know that Vander is inherently angry as a person, so it could just be that his anger towards all of it ended up being pointed at Silco.
When she died, I lost my head. I told myself what I did to you was for the greater good, that you deserved it. But the dirt was on both our hands.
So that leads to the falling out that led to Silco's eye being harmed, to the general blow up. And that is what Vander actually references in his letter that Silco never found, in this universe at least.
If he found this, everything might have been different.
That he just lost his head because of what happened to her. So it's not the initial fallout that led them to kind of going separate ways, but this is the one that Vander says is like the real like catalyst of their kind of betrayal enemies thing that they got going on. So while we do know about like the fight on the bridge and all of this and like in the water and all of that, we know that they have betrayed each other in some way, and Vander's came out with anger and Silco's came out with trying to make a Nation of Zaun without him.
What I did to you, I've never forgiven myself.
No, you still don't understand.
We don't know what their initial first falling out was that led Silco to not be around when Vi and Powder were younger. So that is definitely still missing, but I hope that cleared up a little bit of the relationship between Silco and Vander, because I've seen a lot of people are confused, so I kind of tried to compile it together. If you like this and you want to see more like this, please leave a comment down below and subscribe, and I will see you guys later. Stay geeky.